Hi, my name is Kate, and I love talking about theater because theater is life. And today we're talking about the new country jukebox musical, May We All, currently playing at the Tennessee Performing Arts Center in Nashville, Tennessee. May We All tells the story of a young country singer that leaves Nashville to return to her hometown of Harmony, the town that sings. And they sing a lot, because it's a musical. This show is written by Troy Britton Johnson and Todd Johnson, who grew up in a small town that also sings, and playwright Eric Pfeffinger. And this production is directed by Shelley Butler. It features country music both old and new to weave this story together. I have a lot of thoughts about this musical, so here are 5 things I loved and 1 thing I would change. Overall, the songs were chosen really well. There's a nice mix of songs that everybody knows and some newer hits, and all of the songs help to move the story forward. They all feel organic, like it makes sense that the characters are singing it, and that to me is one of the toughest parts of a jukebox musical, deciding what songs that the characters should sing, because you want to make it feel organic that they're singing these songs, even though the audience will know the song ahead of time. And these songs all made sense. I will say jukebox musicals tend to have a song at the end that's like a sing-along. Either it's a mega mix of hits or just one song that they know the audience knows. And the song that they chose for this musical was a song from 2019 that I had never heard of in my life. But I will say that country music is not my first genre that I listen to, though I am from Colorado, so I did go through a country phase. But for a song that the characters literally say, sing along, you'll know this one, it did seem a little bit like an odd choice because it didn't sound like anybody around me knew it. And there were a lot of other songs in the show that everybody knew, but even that song still fit the vibe of the show. So it wasn't a deal breaker for me, just a bit of an odd choice. Another thing I loved about the show was the overall story. It was a little predictable, but predictable in a comforting way, like how you will watch a Golden Age musical or a romantic comedy, even though you know what's going to happen at the end. This one still was constructed well, the beats were good. There were a couple beats that I did not see coming. So overall, I thought it was a good structured story, and again, the songs really helped to move that structure forward. There were some really great performances in this show, but the standout performances to me were hands down Heidi Blickenstaff and Ryan Link that played the main characters' parents, and they were absolutely perfect. In my opinion, they stole the show. I wish there was more of them. They just seemed so natural together. Their chemistry was great, and I firmly believe that these were 2 hardworking parents that had probably been together since high school. They just had a really strong rapport together. I wanted to see them on stage more. They were just so good. From a design standpoint, the highlight for me was the lighting by Zach Blaine. The set was very minimal, but the lights really helped to make sure that every scene was just gorgeous to look at. There was an entire scene done in like artificial candlelight that was just gorgeous and really helped to set the mood of that scene. And one of the fun moments of this show for me is that every single performance has a different guest performer that comes into the show. This is always a different country singer local to the area that it's performing in, and they have an entire list of everybody that's going to be performing in this show. And the way that they wove that person into the show was just really cute and clever, and I thought it was really well done. I wasn't sure how they were going to do that, but it ended up being a really fun moment, and the audience absolutely ate it up. When I saw it was Bailey Stone. I don't know Bailey Stone's music, but there were definitely people in the audience that knew her for sure. So while editing this, I've come to discover that Bailey Stone is not a real country singer. That is just the name that they give to the character that the performer ends up stepping into every night. I don't really understand why they don't just name the character after the actual performer that's stepping in every night, especially since they released the list of all the guest performers, so it's not really a surprise. And they don't have an insert in the program, so if you don't know that country singer, it'd be nice to name it after the country singer. When I saw it, it was Robin Odellini, who I did not know ahead of time, and it would have been nice if they had told me her name multiple times during the show so that, you know, people that don't know the person can discover new country artists. It is still a really cute gimmick, and I think it works really well on the show, but that's just one little tweak that I would make, or at least put an insert in the program of the person that is going to be stepping into that role so people can learn more about that artist. But yeah, overall it was a nice fun addition to the show itself, and it definitely felt organic. Is it a little gimmicky? Sure, but it felt appropriate for the story, and jukebox musicals can definitely get away with a little bit of gimmick. In fact, I think it's part of what makes them charming in a way, which brings me to the one thing that I would change about this show. Ultimately, the dialogue and the blocking just felt very unnatural, and there is something inherently unnatural about a jukebox musical, but even though from an audience perspective, some of the lines can seem a little cheesy, the lines and the movement should be natural natural for the characters. There are jukebox musicals that find this balance incredibly well. Shows like Moulin Rouge, Escape to Margaritaville, and Juliet. These are all jukebox musicals that have a ton of fun, relying on the fact that the audience is going to know the songs ahead of time. And there are definitely criticisms for all of those shows, but they really help to balance the book and set up the songs in really clever ways. That's definitely not for everybody, but it works really well. Even with the cheesy setups, the lines still feel like something that the characters would say. When Christian in Moulin Rouge is saying, "Love lifts us up where we belong. All you need is love." It's that desperation that just feels natural for Christian as a character to be saying to Satine in that moment. And even when the lines don't reference songs, it has to feel like dialogue that the characters would say. And that's where I feel like this show struggled a little bit. The dialogue just didn't feel natural at all. There were lines that felt forced or obvious that just need to be reworded because the overall story arc is there. It's just about how do we get the characters to those moments in a way that feels natural. And the same thing with the blocking. There was a scene that takes place at like a town meeting, and the characters are spread out pretty well throughout the stage. There was a moment where one of the characters walks to the front of the crowd just to deliver a line and then walks back. And it feels like one of those moments where it's like, is that really the blocking choice that you wanted to make there? Because that doesn't feel natural to me. And especially because the amount of actors on the stage wasn't enough to just obscure this actor. We could see them fine when they were in the back row. But if you're in a meeting and somebody's just shouting a one-liner, they're just going to stand up and say it. They're not going to like walk to the front of the crowd to deliver this line. And it wasn't like a moment where they were giving a speech that would normally be said at a microphone or a podium. It was literally just like a one-liner. So it's moments like that made the show overall feel a little clunky, and that stuff can absolutely be changed. I will say I did see this show early in previews. It was about its third performance, so stuff like that definitely could be changed before it opens, and I hope it does. But this also isn't the first production of this show, and it just feels like stuff that definitely needs to be worked out. For me, it brought the show down, and in a way some of the dialogue was so clunky that some of the actors just had trouble delivering it in a believable way. Really the only person that could pull off the cheesiest lines was Heidi Blickenstaff, but she's also one of the more seasoned performers in the cast. Overall, I had a ton of fun at this show. I was never bored. I was thoroughly entertained. I was invested in what was going to happen to the characters, which in some ways can be the toughest hurdle for a new production to get over. It's definitely a fun show, and definitely a show that I feel country music fans would really enjoy. It would be interesting to see how the show plays outside of Tennessee. Some of it feels very Tennessee-centric. The first production was in Memphis, and now it's playing in Nashville. So I would like to see how the show ends up evolving. But ultimately I had a ton of fun, and I can't wait to see where it goes next. If you've seen May We All, let me know. What did you think? Drop it in the comments. And if you haven't, what are some things that make a strong jukebox musical in your opinion? Because after seeing this show, I've been thinking a lot about what makes a good jukebox musical. And if you haven't already, please like this video and definitely subscribe so that you can see more thoughts on new musicals that I've seen this week. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching. Theater is life. Please take this moment to subscribe. And one more thing before you go. Click here to watch another video.